What is man but fleeting time wasted on ephemera? What is man but fear coiled to dirt? What is man but the image of what could have been? Ben is man but the idiotic cord we cling to for survival. Man is no longer necessary. Man is no longer necessary.
Okay, welcome back to Ben Drowned, everybody. It's been a crazy time covering this series, and I definitely needed a break after the last video kept me up writing and editing. This video is going to be a bit different. We're going to be tackling the events that conclude Phase 1 of the Awakening arc, and then I'm going to try to get us caught up to where we are currently in Phase 2. Now, before we begin, I'd like to start off by thanking Alex Hall for creating and maintaining the game thus far. His Twitter and Patreon are linked down below. Next, I'd like to thank Circle Hunter for keeping info current on the Deducible Wiki. And next, I'd actually like to make some corrections on the previous source that I credited. The recreation of You Shouldn't Have Done That.net was a more involved process than I originally let on, simply due to my own inaccurate information. This one's totally on me, and I want to rectify it before we go any further. FI is credited with the original archive of the Moon Children website. A Negative, who's also responsible for logging some of the Q&As back during the second arc, provided archives of the site post Moon Children. Originally, when the site went for sale, a Chinese company with less than moral intentions bought up the site to sell for a high price. Tyler, unrelated to in-character Tyler, rescued the domain from said company for the recreation team to utilize. John is next up, who recreated the Sounds Foundation from scratch. Then Wolfcat and Spiricoid, who give first-hand accounts of how the site worked to ensure it was as accurate as possible. And then finally Circle Hunter for adding in all the post-Moon Children content. Also, I previously mentioned that some pages of this recreation were lost to time, and made it sound like it was worse than it really was. Truth of the matter was, we only lost Neko's bio in the About section, as we had never unlocked the truth, so everything else has been recreated to the point that it looked back then. And next I wanted to add a point I missed out back on with the newspaper fragment that was sent out to the top 50 donators during the original Arc 3. The third article, written by MH, was redacted like the Lawman article. The passage that I wrote was the entire thing, where if you only read the unredacted bits, you get the following. I'm right beside you. You thought I forgot about you, didn't you? I'm done playing games with you. It's your turn. You shouldn't have done that. Now, there's one final bit here I want to bring up, because it's just become a thing as I begun to write the script, and we finally have an official subreddit to host discussions, theories, arts, memes, the Ben Drowned story over at r/deducible. I myself have posted 2 theory posts, which I'm going to link in the description because I think that they're that important, and they take up too much space in this video here. The theories are that Ben is Luna, Luna is the angel Gabriel, Deducible was chosen by the cartridge for his recognition of Majora's Mask, Matt Hubris and Deducible are linked, Jadis is also linked to Deducible, Hubris is the moon, and Deducible H isn't an out-of-character resource. There's a bit more in there, and every theory is supplied with ample evidence from the story itself, so I highly check out those theories before continuing on here, as I'm going to be recapping the rest of this with them in mind. Alright, so we caught up with housekeeping? I think so. Now, when we last left off, we finished up Children.wmv. On April 4th, after said video, a new link was discovered on the Methods of Revolution website, titled 0915-2000. It contains a text file named TheRealTruth.txt. This file seems to be a compilation of the truth.rtf plus the video summaries into one single file. What's interesting here is the name of the title seems to indicate the date of September 15th, 2000. 10 years before when the Truth.rtf landed on players' doorsteps. There is one interesting change in The Real Truth. In the entry stamped where the original Children.wmv summary was in the Truth.rtf, in The Real Truth, we see a following message in its place.
After crying and whining for some time now, we finally came to our senses. He was being pathetic and greedy, weak and embarrassing, vulnerable and alone. No more. He thinks it's the afternoon now, but his brain can't tell anymore. It is irrelevant. We are one with a singular purpose, and we will finish it. These messages are not meant for them to read right now. None of it will make sense to either the desperate puppet or his audience at present. Conclusion. It is a wasted effort. Regrettably, in order to achieve fulfillment and ascend higher, we will need to wait for some time. We will continue to form our own consensus, but there's been too much of a commotion here. That blithering idiot could set us back if we were discovered. Then patience is the answer. Time is inconsequential. He attempting to interface with our world again. Moon and the sun. Show ourselves to him. Show that we are many, and we are watching. Is it time? That is a high probability of completely fracturing his already weakened mind. Yes. Yes, this one will die soon. Yes, this world is beginning to fall apart as well. Yes, but on that matter it is a debate. Our ability to interact with their plane is limited to only a few methods. Yes, but it will not be that way forever. Yes, but the probability that we will become incompatible is too great if we wait too long.
So what we have here is almost certainly Ben. There seems to be inner conversations, possibly one of the souls inside, but they're definitely speaking about Juducible, specifically calling him a puppet and referring to us as the audience. The way they word this message almost confirms that they've been able to take direct control of Juducible, and that this is the cause for his lapse in memory. It's also confirmed that if the audience does not benefit from information, Ben will not reveal it until we can. Almost as if Ben is guiding us as well as laughing at us. This fits with the previously established theories. It's possible that the events Juducible went through existed within its own pocket dimension, similar to what we're theorizing about the Methods world. This world is destabilizing and soon it'll crumble into nothingness. That could explain why we played a sonata from Gateway.wmv and Juducible played the Sun Song. We are in separate worlds, which could also mean Juducible H from our world is the analog to Juducible of that world. After this document was released, a new poll was discovered in place of the old one. The three options were hide, fight, and run. 3 minutes later, the options changed to die, die, and die, and the image in the header changed. A minute later, they reverted back to the previous options. 10 minutes later, the bulletin board that was originally under the link 01101000 changed to an image titled, I can see you through the other side.jpg. 6 minutes later, a sound file appeared on each page titled sorrow.mp3. The banner changed quite a bit. Here's a short time lapse of all the changes. Next, 3 audio files of Majora's Mask Clock Tower were found called closing.mp3, timesending.mp3, and timesup.mp3, all signifying the end of the poll. The Discord fought feverishly for this poll, probably one of the most heated debates in the history of the whole game, but in the end, Hyde won out. After this, the page went dark, and several messages were posted over the course of the next 20 minutes. First was hiding. 3 minutes later, it was replaced from a quote from the Truth.rtf about Juducible's dream of Children.wmv, 10:43 a.m. The moon children appeared in my dreams last night. They lifted up their masks to reveal their hideously disfigured faces. A minute later, more was added to the message, 10:43 a.m. The moon children appeared in my dreams last night. They lifted up their masks to reveal their hideously disfigured faces. maggots crawling out of their orifices, sunken black holes where their eyes should be, a yellow smile that slowly grew bigger as they came closer to me. This message hangs on the page until 6 minutes later when the message was replaced by they. Another minute passes, and took is the new message, with the background being a new image titled kel.jpg. So here we are with Kelbris, looking equally as terrifying as he used to, but now with original art from the same source as the Ben picture. Artbreeder being a mixture of different pictures, so Kelbris is being brought into these events here. A minute after this, the text disappears and leaves Kelbris staring at us, and then finally, 5 minutes after that, he leaves, and hiding is replaced on the website. The final update for the night. 3 days later, on April 7th, we get our next premiere in 2018.txt. What's interesting is the background for this image is a video by a fire. A digital fireside. Wait, wasn't that the name of the podcast that Alex posted on the Deducible channel as a preamble to Methods of Revolution? Yeah, it was. I'll probably have to take a look at those at some point then. Not now though, another time. Anyway, the video begins with Jadis being retrospective again, this time thinking back to a message he logged for himself for his phone from 2018, hence the name of the video. An interesting note, the previous scene we had of Jadis in King.txt seems to be from late 2015, early 2016, so we're a little past this point now. Jadis talks about his wife asleep in the bedroom and how he has the house to himself, the fireplace crackling softly in the distance. He says that he always thinks too hard on a big question in life, and it's likely due to his own ego, his hubris. Hold on here, we're getting more mentions of hubris now. We're gonna have to keep an even closer eye on Jadis than we already were. He then continues to wonder if there's something hard-coded into our brains, that getting the answers to the questions unlocks new paths for us to move forward on. He then makes a mental declaration of his existence, and then says he wants to cry out to whoever might be watching. No, listening. What was that? This is the first time we have active edits here in the text videos. These have to be significant. Jadis might have some subconscious feeling he's being watched as he was recording this note. Jadis then wonders what the point would be, that life doesn't separate individual feelings out like that. Even if I were to grab the attention of someone. Jadis really seems to not be doing as okay as we maybe have thought. We're seeing the negative effects of his awakening. He's beginning to lose his sense of self, referring to it instead of I. He's catching himself now, but who's to say he'll continue to be able to? As we continue forward, we see Jadis' purpose does seem to have lost its honeymoon period. He opts to not say anything instead. He does as he always did, thumbs through the phone trying to get the next hit of dopamine. He wonders what the next method will be. Drinking doesn't cut it for him anymore. New TV show? Video games? Sex? All lead back to the same feeling of being unable to escape the cycle. This seems to be how Luna operates. She pulls you into a cycle of deep depression so that she can install herself into your will smallly, subtly at first. Then you receive your purpose and are hit with all kinds of chemicals in the brain. The forehead tingling begins. You operate under her will and are more open to suggestion. Just like a Venus flytrap, before you begin to understand how deep you're in, you're already trapped. It's too late. Jadis then contemplates what happens after a human existence. He wants to skip to the end of the book and open up the next chapter. We can almost assume he's talking about ascension here. He continues to wonder at the marvel it is of those that can be content with the human condition, making their own purpose or following their own values. He notices his wife shifting in bed and decides to table the rest of the thought, as unsolved a riddle as any, and proceeds to hold his wife to calm her troubles. We shift back into the present, and Jadis comments on the needlessly prosaic nature of his writing. He remembers the feeling of being unfulfilled, but then thinks on how lucky he truly had it back then. Physical needs outweighed the mental desires he had back then, now in a time where society seems to have collapsed. He then wonders if he really was the lucky one after all. He's about to thumb through the last message he saved for himself, but the video ends before we get to see it. This video seems to imply the apocalypse we've been hearing about takes place close to 2018. I'm unsure what this means for the Moon Children gang that seem to have been able to see some form of its effects in 2015. It's possible that 2015 could be our time, and that crossover point could be around then. We'll need more information to place it anywhere solidly. The next update comes 3 days later on April 10th. On the Methods website, we got a new image of the Astral Observatory, which implied that the current 3-day cycle for updates was going to be impacted by the 4th day glitch, so that way April 23rd would fall on an update day. About an hour after this event, the official Twitter confirms this as such, also citing upload issues for the delay. On the next day, players noticed a new premiere. TheRealTruth.txt was set to premiere. An hour later, the thumbnail became the same Astral Observatory image that appeared on the Methods website previously. 3 minutes after this, 4 new tags were discovered on the premiere. What happened to Deducible? His final video. Deducible. Deducible's final video. Deducible's final video? Could this be Matt.wmv? You have to keep the context of Matt.wmv and Deducible.wmv into consideration now. These are things that have been in hot debate since their very introduction, also confirming once again that Deducible is not Jadis, as if that needed any more confirmation. Little less than an hour before the video was set to premiere, the title and description both changed to "Stop uploading this, stop uploading this, stop uploading this, stop uploading this, stop uploading this." So with this we have 2 possibilities. Either Ben is arguing with a fraction of themselves who sees it fit to see this video uploaded, or Jadis is uploading this video and Ben finds issue with that. A minute later, the title and description returned to what they were previously. 2 minutes after this, the title changes again to "He is already dead, this doesn't matter, they don't need to see this," and the description was left blank. A minute later, the title changes to 2. Now, it's important to note that due to a glitch on YouTube, an early version of this video was able to be seen by players. The video that few saw early did differ a little bit from what we ended up getting, but not in any huge crazy ways. I'll explain the differences after we check out the actual video. About 40 minutes before the premiere, this video was taken down and another premiere began for the FATHER.wmv. The thumbnail changed to the ICU picture 9 minutes before launch, and Deducible's Twitter tweets, "The final missing video from Deducible before he died," confirming once and for all that Deducible did not survive the events of the first arc. Now, this picture here was made by Lego 1Up Mushroom from the Awakening Discord. You can find his Twitter over at Lego 1Up Mushroom. Now, before looking at the actual video, we have some thumbnails and tags to check out. The thumbnails are as follows. And here are the tags. What happened to Deducible? His final video. Deducible. Deducible's final video. Ben drowned. Kelbris. Who is the father? Why is he smiling? The old man. Scattered code. Breaking the game. Hiding and debug. The description was binary that translated to the last missing video. This video begins with the same interference and rosaspeak that we've come to expect from the videos in this arc. We get flashes of the previous events that have happened on Methods previously, but include a new banner image of the Giants and an image of someone looking at what looks to be a ceiling fixture, a light of some sort. The spectrogram in this video reveals the numbers 04192020, implying the 19th of April will be a significant date. The video begins with the aftermath of Link playing the LG of Emptiness. The text from Ecos to Ikana is scrambled as the LG statue is summoned behind Link. We then see the events play out that should immediately stand out. Gomez is summoned from the statue and kills Link. We're looking at the events of Deducible.wmv. This means that the video proper here is the second half of Deducible, and not the first half like Matt. This is important information to keep in mind. Even though we're getting this video now, there is still a first half as described by Deducible and out-of-character Deducible. The footage from Deducible.wmv continues until the original left off on the file select screen with the Link and Matt as files. The game is no longer lagging. It resets, and a new file is present on file 1. Children. Link is face to face with the Medicine Man, who I previously believed to be Jadis. Although the line that plays here is eerily similar to what I believe was Ben speaking from TheRealTruth.txt. What's also noticeable is the fact this footage almost appears to be a continuation of what happened in Children.wmv, Link being in the broken South Clock Town with the Medicine Man, he heads to the southern exit and determine a field, and then we get another message. What's interesting here is the dialogue box's input here is green as opposed to the normal blue. This happens to be what happens when you play the GameCube port of Majora's Mask. It's changed to match the controller's A button. Reality is crumbling as we speak. The game resets once again. Juducible continues, and a second file is added. Stop. Juducible deletes it and continues with children. He's open to one of the chambers of the giants. In vanilla Majora's Mask, Link would be teleported here after he defeats one of the bosses. This is where he learns the Oath to Order. The fact that the chamber looks so dead here almost means that the giant here probably is dead. This video was originally titled to be Matt.wmv from Juducible's notes. Then this could be indicative of Matt's fate. Juducible looks around the horror before jumping off of the ledge, and ends up respawning in what the chamber usually looks like. A giant stares at Link from the distance and seems to call out to Link. Similar to the events of Children.wmv, we get to see what the giant says. The game resets in a new transition we've never seen before. The second file this time is Please. What's interesting is that both of these files have all the masks obtained, all bosses defeated, and the end of the game is practically lined up if Juducible were to choose it. But instead, he deletes it again. He goes back to Children, which is effectively the same progress as a brand new file. His will, or whoever is imposing his will, is determined to search out the end of this world. We see Link open on a black void similar to Children.wmv. Link slowly approaches Evan, the Indiegogo's band leader and pianist, as he's playing the Zelda 1 Game Over theme. Link walks slowly just to the right of Evan and approaches the piano, and then turns away, running in the opposite direction until he notices something. Well, that was absolutely horrifying. Patreon update for this post reveals a bit more detail. The Father revealed, as Juducible delved deeper into the darkest recesses of the cartridge, despite ignoring warnings from the voices of the game itself. He finally found what he was looking for in the edge of the game's existence. The Father. He appeared before Juducible in his true form, not using a representation within the game itself anymore, and opened his eyes to stare through the avatar of the player behind it. Juducible was the only able to gaze dumbfounded at the Monolith's eldritch face before he was consumed and killed. Immediately after this video, a few connections were made. Now here, before we continue, the only differences between the FATHER.wmv and Kelbrus.wmv was the fact that Kelbrus.wmv did not include the connecting video from Juducible.wmv. Everything else is the same. Players who investigated the Methods website afterward found a picture of the father with his eyes closed. This image was titled TheFather.jpg. 2 hours after the image changes to the image of the father with his eyes opened, with the text 8 p.m. CST. CST? Why is CST all of a sudden? Everything up to this point has been in EST. Wait, what time zone is St. Louis? CST. Oh, that explains it. This image was also titled Kellerbis.jpg, a typo of Kelbrus. This here is tied with the image of Kel we saw earlier. Almost all it confirms that the father and Kelbrus are one and the same person. A minute later, the site opened back up, and Time's Ending was playing on every page. The under construction post was back on the homepage, but included new text after the first line of tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. We had a new poll to vote on. 91026121 was its house, and a simple question was inside. Awaken the second player? Yes, no. Poll's image changed between the closed and open eyes pictures of Kelbrus, plus a new one of him smiling, baring his top teeth. Players also discovered a slew of new page IDs containing various audio files that play hidden messages and spectrograms, similar to the beginning of the recent videos. This first one in binary translates to a wonderful reunion, almost certainly ending in reunion. The second one here translates to they should be. The third one translates to you finally found. The fourth one translates to Juducible Nev. The fifth one translated to a cipher, which was decoded as decode can decrypt Vignere without key, which led us to a website that we could decrypt Vignere ciphers without keys. Page 412 was titled You Shouldn't Be Here, and the contents of this page were password protected. Shortly after this page's discovery, it was added to the bottom of the directory. Page 415 was titled Master Key and contained a link to this text file, which itself contained a binary code translated to the following. This cipher was found to be a Vignere cipher with the key of Juducible, and translates to it's another number 53. It's another 53. There is so much I need to communicate with you. Now, this section here is still a large question to players today. The password protected page? We had about an hour to solve it, and unfortunately, we were unable to. We lost the chance of getting whatever that page held. We tried everything we could in that hour, but it was too short a time with too few minds gathered to find the right answer. For the reference of 53, some players took to You Shouldn't Have Done That to find the file 53 to see if it had any significance. Unfortunately, it was just one of the unintelligible MP3s that whispered, "Help me, please, you have to help me." Didn't help us out much. Next, we got a battery change 15 minutes before our time was up. We got a disturbing image of what looks like a red-haired girl with a disfigured face and unnatural eyes. The mouth looks torn apart, and the nose looks smashed in. The image's title is cropped amal.jpg. It's been taken to mean that this could be another entity like Ben, as amal is very close to being amalgamation. I'm gonna state up front, I have no current theories on amal. It seems like it'd play into a lot, but we don't have enough information to make any solid or reasonable claims. Afterward, the under construction post changed to the binary found in masterkey.txt under the title Emergency Transmission. 7 minutes later, another passage was added. Emergency transmission. You need to use this somewhere. I'm running out of time. The poll ended with roughly 70% of the vote in favor of waking the second player. 8 days later, we get our final upload for Phase 1. On April 19th, baker.txt is set to premiere at 5 p.m. This video, I was scared of this one the most when tackling this phase. I could just tell there was so much information stuffed in this one. And I'm going to be honest, I don't have any solid answers for many of the questions this video raises, but like any others, we're just going to have to start and find our way through. We enter into what looks like a coffee shop in the background. Jadis is without his phone for the first time in these .txt videos. He's anxious, but wishes he could pretend this is just a normal coffee day with a friend, but he knows it's not the truth. It seems that this takes place either during the societal collapse or just before, as Jadis mentions people outside are rushing to avoid being ticketed for being out past curfew. Coffee shop bell rings and in comes the person which this video is titled after, Baker. Now it's important to realize that Baker is most likely just an alias, just like everyone else here in this world that we've seen. That means it's possible it's a character we've previously been familiar with. Let's see if we can parse out details from their conversation. Jadis welcomes Baker. And in a stunning change of pace, Baker actually speaks back.
Black coffee's fine. Thanks.
His lines are voiced, and by none other than by Alex Hall himself. This is an important fact to keep in mind, as it's the only instance where this has happened. Baker orders black coffee and the two sit and begin talking about how busy it's been. Jadis makes mention that it's been some time since he's last seen Baker, but he could still easily recognize him. Jadis studies Baker's unkempt face and wonders if he's gotten older, or if the world around him has, as everyone else seems to have similarly lost their priority for hygiene. He also remembers meeting Baker back at the gym years ago and seems to work private sector. For those unaware, private sector means you work for part of the national economy, not under direct government control. This means that Baker was often overseas. He also makes mention that Baker's also married with a wife, as the two of them would go out and complain about their respective wives in the old days. Jadis thinks how they'd always end up talking more about his life than Baker's, that he seemed almost intrigued by it. The two pitch small talk back and forth until they arrive at the topic they both came to the coffee shop for. But before we reach that, one small topic is dropped of, did you see the latest developments toward the cure? Jadis then mentally reveals that Baker had arranged the meeting, and on short notice. And the reason why Jadis doesn't have his phone is because Baker specifically asked him not to bring it. Baker asks Jadis if he thinks he'll have his job once this is all over. This statement here definitely makes me think this is before the present time we see in the other .txt videos. So this is when the societal collapse is just about to happen. Jadis shakes his head, saying he's pretty much fucked. Graduated from high school right into a shitty job after shitty job, then graduated with his master's, and we can finally get a good job and get his head above water.
Then along came Heroes, huh? And people act surprised that they're already rioting in Seattle.
Heroes? Is that some kind of world line to coronavirus? Talk of a cure above definitely makes it seem so, although we don't know if it has symptoms or mortality rate or similar. Baker then reveals that people in Seattle have already begun to riot. Jadis can tell that under Baker's aloof exterior that the situation has frustrated him greatly, and Jadis agrees with it. Baker finally comes to the reason he calls Jadis up. He says that we're leaving the city tomorrow. He says that things are getting bad, real bad. Says that he heard from one of the union heads that they're going to go on strike soon, and it'll disrupt the supply chain to St. Louis. St. Louis? Is it any surprise that St. Louis in this alternate world line is important? Of course not. Baker reveals that the workers, and I'm going to take the extra step here and extrapolate that these are the essential workers, a fact which Baker makes almost immediately after.
When this lockdown happened, we found out real quick who really keeps this country going. I mean, it's not the boys up at the top. It's the people making our food, paving our roads, and picking up our trash. After 3 months of putting up with all this abuse and getting paid dog shit, it's no surprise most of them are quitting. You're liable to make more money on unemployment anyway, with none of the risk. Everyone's always so eager to go on social media just to tell them how much they're the real heroes. But it's all just sycophantic bullshit. They don't really mean a word of it. There was another round of worker fatalities this week. It was pretty bad. Thing is, government's not going to have it. Once people stop getting a reliable way to eat, it's going to break bad here soon. And if you're smart, you'll be out of the city by then. Word on the street is that our boys in white at the CUIMC are working on something big. Something biblical. No, not the cure. Something else. Some real mark of the beast type shit. Uncle Sam's panicking because the longer we stay on lockdown, the more likely this house of cards comes tumbling down. They want to rush us back to work as fast as they can. They want things to go back to normal. You could be sure that they'll be clever about it. Well, that's really where the reports end. We have no idea. It's all just theories at this point.
The boys in white at the CUIMC. Something biblical. These are very important identifying phrases. The CUIMC is the Columbia University Irving Medical Center. It's a clinical research and educational institute in Manhattan. So we've got double confirmation that Jadis is in New York currently. Which brings up the question why Baker and Jadis are so concerned over the supply chain being disrupted near St. Louis, states away. If the idea that this world is conjured up by Luna, similar to Inside the Moon world from Majora's Mask, it could be because St. Louis were to fall, this world line would crumble similar to how we saw in the FATHER.wmv. Tyler could have been right after all. And something biblical here is very interesting considering I believe Luna could be an angel, the angel of the moon, Gabriel specifically. For more details on this theory, check out the Reddit post I previously linked in the description. Is Ben an artificial angel? I mean, in this case, the concept would remain the same. A program that believes it's able to become a god, that it has the potential to become everything. That could explain how it ended up in the cartridge in the first place, but how does this make sense temporally? This must be around like 2018-ish, right? Is this related to the entry from The Real Truth that somehow existed 10 years before the Truth.rtf came out? This is something we'll definitely have to keep an eye out for. Jada's jokes calling Baker a conspiracy theorist and asks Baker to get real. Baker responds, not playing off the joke, but instead seriously.
Don't lecture me about reality. Stop and think for a minute here. In just a span of 12 months, just 12 months, we found out about a secret pedophile ring that went all the way up to the top. Right after that, there was a global pandemic that broke out that's still affecting hundreds of thousands of people today. A doomsday cult has emerged out of damn near thin air, and there's an alarming amount of people that are now misremembering things from their childhood. You and I might be sitting in the same old coffee shop, but outside of here, nothing is making sense anymore. Think about where you and I are right now. I mean, right this minute. We're on lockdown, punishable by fines and jail time. In our own country. You really think you could have seen any of this coming a year ago? Predicted any of this? You'd think that you'd stop and humble yourself, just for a minute, before dismissing anything now as a conspiracy theory. If this trajectory holds, you and I have no idea what other kind of crazy shit is on the menu. You need to come to terms with your grasp on reality. It's not as strong as you might have thought. Listen, I'm not saying what they got cooking up is good or bad. I'm saying you need to recognize that you and I have completely lost the plot. No one has any idea of what is going on in this world anymore. All I know is that yesterday's conspiracy theories are turning into tomorrow's news. You're in IT, right? It's like some programmer messed up the code or something.
Doomsday cult appearing out of thin air. Huh. This could actually be around when our moon children landed on their side. This could be before Duskworld reads Jadis' post, perhaps even before Jadis sends the post. It could be the very beginning when Duskworld is first noticing idiosyncrasies. Jadis can see that Baker is passionate about this topic, and he wonders what origin that fire comes from. IT, huh? Jadis works in IT. Well, then this is definitely before the societal collapse, before he takes up guard duty, before he hears Luna's whispers, before he became awakened. We're getting a lot of background information on how this world went to shit. But until we see the actual inciting incidences, I'm gonna keep my theorizing hat on for now, although it's very interesting. Now, players who investigated the Methods website found something very interesting on the homepage. The text from the video continued. He was all over the place, but I followed. I followed all of it. A lot had happened in the past year. In retrospect, it was morbid how we just meandered from one place in a generation scandal to the next in a lazy, indifferent haze. We were so caught up in making it to work on time, paying our bills, and buying the next big ticket item that those events barely registered for more than a week or two before we forgot all about it. But now half the country was unemployed, bills were frozen, and people prioritized essential food/supplies. This was probably the first time many of us really got the chance to stop and really think about the weight of those things and what kind of world we were living in. There really was a billionaire pedophile that ran uncontested for decades in our most elite circles, and we still hadn't found his accomplices. We really were headed towards another Great Depression, and society as we knew it was beginning to crumble. And we really did spend way too much time at the office. And for what? Things were too fast-paced to focus before. But now we had nothing but time. We realized that this was real. This was actually happening in our world. There's a psychological barrier that many people have to refuse to allow them to accept terrible things happening in the world. It's only when things become so in your face and undeniable that the barrier shatters. In many cases, it was the lockdown that shattered it for many people. Now there were no bills to pay, and we had no choice but to dwell on the truth. This was the first time that myself and many others were able to stop and realize the reality we lived in. It was a shame that the riots were beginning to start this early. We might have had time to really organize a revolution. The riots in Seattle were emblematic of that, I'm sure. But now with the supply train being disrupted in the Bible Belt, more would start, but for the wrong reasons. We were interrupted by the owner. The shop was closing soon, which meant we had only a few minutes to get back home before curfew. I stayed behind to use the restroom while Baker made his way to the exit. He paused and half-stepped out the door and turned to me, staring directly at me. I'm telling you, whatever they end up proposing, don't get it put in you. No matter what they say or what they tell you, it's for. Don't get it. These specific memories fluttered back to me for some reason in a dreamlike fashion. I could recall them all vividly. Rather, it was the last poignant thing as I woke up on a cold tile floor on the 23rd of April. Well now, that's a hard shift back into Ben lore. Still, there's definite significance with the don't get it put in you. Obviously it elicits mental images of, say, trackers, but it could also be the cure they mentioned, though it doesn't seem too likely since Jadis himself admits that he doesn't have heroes. It could be whatever the boys in white come out with. That seems to be the most likely. And if it does somehow end up being Luna, then it seems Jadis here doesn't end up listening in the end to Baker's advice. And finally, waking up on the cold tile floor on the 23rd of April almost seems related to the image we saw scrolling through at light speed of the FATHER.wmv, the image of the light fixture in the ceiling. Definitely have to keep it in mind, but it seems like this is the first bout of memory issues that Jadis experiences that we've seen. Tie back to Jeducible, if anything, as if 423 wasn't a big enough one already. Doesn't it feel like yesterday when we were refreshing You Shouldn't Have Done That.net in our little 10-year-old bodies, thinking we were just about a dead kid, being mean as a ghost? Oh boy, things are only going to get crazier from here. This begins the second of three phases of an awakening. On April 23rd, Awakening was set to premiere at 7 p.m. Note that this is not Awakening.txt, but simply Awakening. Over the course of the next 4 hours, several changes were made to the premiere. At 1:21, the title changed to Methods of Revolution Part 1. At 1:24, the title changed to Methods of Revolution Also, the thumbnails changed for all Haunted Cartridge Arc videos to what they currently show now, as well as Children.wmv and King Kong.wmv. At 1:29 p.m., the first tags appeared. Methods of Revolution, Part 1, Ben Drowned, Awakening, Timelines, the second player, Abel. At 2:02, the title changed to Methods of Revolution, Theory, Part 1. At 2:11, more tags appeared. Jeducible, Alex Hall, Where Is He? Trapped, Purgatory. At 2:12, the title changed to Methods of Revolution, Prologue, Part 1. At 2:38, the first thumbnail appeared. At 4:32, the thumbnail was changed. At 4:33, more tags appeared. Escape. How can I escape? Drowned. The Jailer. At 7 p.m., the video launches, sticking with the title Methods of Revolution Part 1. Now, I'm going to let this video play out, since it is the first one in the new phase, but I'll be editing some of the downtime as it is an 18-minute video. Player 2 discovers two more books lined up on the desk here. The first is The Devil in the White City, and the other is Inferno. And as we uncrumple the final note here, there are two things of note. The clock's hands are stuck on 4:23, and the final question echoes back to a very, very important question. Who am I? This is what Ben asked Traducible back during Arc 1, and what I believe they were asking us during Children of the WMV. Interesting note here is the date of the hoodie is from Brooklyn, New York, 11/3/15. Could this be Jadis's hoodie? This makes it likely that Jadis was taken in April of 2016, 17, or maybe even 18.
So, I see you met the jailer on the first floor. Face to face. Sorry, where are my manners? You can call me Abel. Yeah, that's A-B-E-L. And if you think this is the confusing part, you really haven't seen anything yet.
Okay, so this phase right out of the gate is already bringing up questions when our diagnoses prompted for more answers. Anyway, we'll try to reason this out bit by bit. First, we get introduced to Abel, and he makes a specific mention to spell his name as A-B-E-L. This is a direct allusion to the biblical Abel, the victim of the first murder by his brother Cain. However, it is also a direct callback to the Q&A way back during Arc 2, where the players learned that the name Juducible was a combination of the names Judas and Abel. We have a character who at one point also woke up in this hotel who was named Jadis. We have our supposed guide/friend/administrator here named Abel. Why are these synchronicities so loud? We are in an echo chamber as we keep hearing them over and over.
Listen, I'm going to do you a favor. Don't worry about what day it is. Don't worry about what year it is. Don't even worry about what you used to know, because it's not going to help you here. You, my friend, are a completely blank slate. Wherever you thought you were, doesn't matter. It's gone. You're completely cut off from the outside world in what would best be described as a halfway house.
A halfway house is an institute for people with criminal or abusive drug backgrounds to learn or relearn skills necessary to reintegrate them better into society. Now, do I think Player 2's got a nasty coke addiction they need to burn? No. But I think the logic of a halfway house applies here. We're here to learn something so we can be prepared for the outside world. And right here we have something important. As far as Abel says, this hotel is for our benefit. Now, whether we trust Abel or not is a different story. I'm insofar as we're willing to place some trust in him until we get evidence to suggest otherwise. I'm just that kind of guy.
You're on the first floor, surrounded by oblivion, and any attempts to leave via window or entryway result in immediate termination. So between you and me, it's not really the way to go. And it brings up the bigger question. Why even leave? You've got a grade here. We've got books to read. You got a better chance to get in touch with God.
And already I'm suspicious now tenfold. We do have a Bible here, but we also have one very, very specific figure who views themselves as a deity, and I'm not sure we want to be touching any part of them.
We've got entertainment sets.
Now, immediately I thought of the Nintendo Entertainment System, and then my mind jumped immediately to the N64. Are we going to see the Majora's Mask cartridge again? Interesting thing to keep in mind.
As long as you stay away from the jailer, you shouldn't have any problem. At worst, there may be new arrivals that are not as quiet as you are and take some time to get used to the new location. They happen from time to time, and it's unavoidable. Persist outside the usual time frame and continue to be a problem, we'll remove them no problem for you.
Okay, so gas masking is the jailer. Interesting. We've already seen a figure we believe to be Jadis inside a gas mask in Sonata.wmv. Is it possible after Jadis entered the hotel he's transitioned into becoming, what, part of the staff? Is this maybe related to the guard duty Jadis spoke of during King.txt?
There is a little bit of bad news. I regret to inform you that it looks like your friend, and I say friend, she's more like a predecessor, in your room and trying to communicate something with you before she trashed it. So, apart from delaying your entertainment set by a few days, sorry, it's not really quite the warm welcome we wanted for you.
Wait, hold on. Was Jadis ever confirmed male? Let me go through my notes real quick. No, I don't think they were. The closest we ever got, I think, was that Jadis had a wife, and that doesn't rule out anything in the slightest. It's totally possible Jadis is our female predecessor. Update. Circle Hunter and Shylance from the Awakening Discord have bigger brains than me, and I am totally wrong on this theory of Jadis being female. Jadis is referred to a man not just by Tyler in Transmission.wmv, but also by himself in 2018.txt. Thank you. So there's someone in here before us. Now, I still believe Jadis was in here at some point because of the hoodie, but maybe someone in between that time who has managed to leave the room in the state that it's currently in. And it seems like because of her actions, we'll have to wait a few days before we get our entertainment set.
There's one thing she's right about, though. It's that, time and items in this world don't really have the same kind of permanence. But I wouldn't really look to her for, role model examples. Again, I'm talking to you, but I'm also talking to you, because it's a misnomer to say that you yourself have been given free will again. A better way to describe it would be that you're awake and you're properly receiving.
The next quote about time and items not having the same permanence harkens back to Majora's Mask, how in each cycle we lose all of our consumable items and unsaved progress towards that cycle's goals. Another way to describe it would be that you're awake and properly receiving. Oh no, we're awake? I mean, Luna seems to have been whispering to us for almost 10 years now. I guess it would be about that time.
I never tell any subjects this because they always refuse to believe that they have anything less than free will and yada yada yada. But your case is a little bit of a special one. Your consciousness, believe it or not, is comprised of several hundred of those that participated in the original St. Louis incident.
St. fucking Louis. This time, it seems to be talking about an event that we do not know about, that most likely happened in the Jadisverse, most likely as a result of the events alluded to in baker.txt.
That is... it's crazy, but also no offense, we do have a bit of a death pool going on how quickly you'll try and leave the room and die. Past history has shown they don't really like doing what they're told, and it's like they don't really value human life. They just like to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So, sorry to you, and, but, if I were you, I would just stay and relax here. You really have nothing to worry about. You're totally safe here. You don't need to eat. We've taken care of all of that stuff for you. We've got your entertainment set up here once we clear out all this debris. And you just need to sit back and relax and just enjoy the parameters we've established for you.
Every time I sleep, the future plays out before me. It will end over and over until I cease to dream. I know your questions.
Sorry, I was getting a little bit of interference there. Anyway, I just wanted to say hi, and, maybe one day we can meet in person. How about that? That'd be nice, right?
Then finally, we get the voice of Rosa interrupting the video proper this time, saying, "Every time I sleep, the future plays out before me. I know the ending. It'll end over and over until I cease to dream. I know your questions." Abel then confirms that he was interrupted, which begs the question, we don't seem to be holding a camera. Like I mentioned before, we're looking through player 2's eyes. So how exactly did Rosa's message reach us? There's a message in the spectrogram that reads, "I've given you all I can to break free. Look closely. It's not just how to break free, but when. Don't be too hasty." This seems to imply that Rosa is around here somewhere. She isn't dead like we previously thought, and it would make sense if the other moon children came over here that Rosa would end up here too. Alright, video 1 is done, and I'm still looking for answers. 6 days later, around 9:30 in the morning, Methods of Revolution Day 3 is set to premiere later that evening around 6:30 p.m. The first Methods of Revolution video is then retitled to Day 1 to fit the theme. The description is added 20 minutes later, and a choice will be made.
Is anybody there? Hello? Hello? Is anybody there? Let me out! Let me out of here! Who's that? Who's there? Who's that? What's happening? What's going on? What? Let me out! Let me out! Let me out of here! Let me out! Let me out! Let me out! Let me out! What's going on? What the fuck is happening? What the fuck is this? Stop talking. Fuck you! Help me! Help! What are you people? Someone tell me what the fuck is going on. Oh my god! Oh my god! What the fuck? Help! Ah!
The importance in this video comes mainly in what happens afterward. 10 minutes after the video launched, methods opened back up, and we got a photo of the desk with the items that player 2 had arranged. It contains a notebook, a model head with what looks like markings covering the face like a mask, a radio, a knife, a songbook, a flashlight, and the Bible. Each of them look to be posed as choices for us to take. As Abel had said, items' permanence wasn't the same here as in the real world. It seemed as if a choice would be made in the future concerning these items. Also interesting to note is that the author tag for this post had been changed from Find Your Method to Guide, mirroring our guide from Within Hubris. Seems that choice comes on the very next day, where we get our very first poll on the Patreon, this time to prevent botting. The top 3 results chosen in the list of items will be what player 2 takes with him going forward. It also has a link to the Methods website where the image of the items is. This time, each item had a description pinned to it. They are as follows. Model head. A strange and macabre looking head modeled after a human with black eyeliner. Radio. Despite the two-way functionality disabled, someone who appears to know about your situation is using it to communicate directly with you. Whether this someone you should trust or not remains a bigger question. Flashlight. A portable 2000 lumen LED flashlight with adjustable focus. While prone to flicker occasionally, the battery life seems indefinite. Notepad and pen. If vocal noise seems to be what attracts the jailer, this might be the most effective way to communicate with inhabitants you might find. Knife. You're not much of a fighter, but this could be useful in cutting open materials, couches, mattresses, or even used for intimidation. Rustic songbook. Book of songs from the World War II time period. Musical memories from almost 80 years ago. Holy Bible. There are several passages that have been underlined and highlighted. Their significance seems a mystery. May 9th is when the next upload happens, and we get the premiere of Methods of Revolution Day 6. It is then revealed that the flashlight, the notebook, and the model head have been chosen to accompany us on our journey. A fun little note is that at this time, the model head became a sort of meme in the community. Several members noticed the resemblance to the character Wilson from the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks, so we lovingly dubbed it the model head to be named Wilson. Ryu here from the Discord is the first on the ticket here, so henceforth, he is Wilson's daddy. Hope you sent those child support checks out in the mail. He's getting a little big now. we've managed not to die and make our way up to the second floor, and we got a neat map thanks to our predecessor. This same map was made the background image of the Methods website immediately after, along with the text. I just signed up for this. I can't really remember who I was before this. Who am I? What is this place? What's interesting here is the added slash. We're currently unaware of the significance, but it surely must be something. We'll take a look at the map in a second, but first let's take a second look at those notes we found side by side. Is this my fault? Did I ask for this? Silence my life away. Every floor is a prison, no escape, it is not the way out. And the third reads, I'm leaving the light on. Please let there be others like me. Follow me. Now it's gotten interesting. We have a reference to a prison here, because the other times we've gotten for a prison was the Majora's Mask cartridge for Ben, the website the players were led to before getting access to Within Hubris, and the whispers Calver supposedly heard from Luna. They break free of the prison. Now, we're going to take a look at the map we found. It seems like based on the one here that we could be downloading the map on the first floor, and the existence of a pool here backs up that fact. There are some markings here just below the pool and across the hallway, across the laundry room. We have no data for the room next to it, and then a tools closet most likely, also marked. And then another mystery room, also marked. A bathroom, also marked. Elevator, which looks to be both marked and crossed out, signifying the elevator does not work, and the conference room unmarked. Across from the elevator next to the pool we have the kitchen, which not only contains a mark, but also a star, meaning it's likely of some importance. Now, let's see if we can possibly find any of these places in the video itself. As player 2 opens their door, we see 2 doors right in front of us. This almost lines up with the 2 X's here on the map, maybe implying the X's are doors that aren't able to be opened. Player 2 looks to the right and sees theoretically where the door to what normally would be the front entrance would be, and then we turn to the left to continue down the hallway. Now, what's interesting here is the hallway here on the map looks clear. The first we're able to pass through, but the second is locked. Next we go through the door, which strangely would put us right at the pool. But instead it's a stairwell. That's an odd inconsistency. We'll have to keep that in mind for later. Unless we're in this tiny space here between the doors and the pool. We climb up to the second floor, and thankfully, Peace Duh from the Awakening Discord has drawn up a map of her own based on the movements of this floor. Here we can see where we entered from. It's much darker up here than down on the first floor, meaning it's good that we brought the flashlight. Player 2 continues down the hallway, our flashlight threatening to go out, but still holding on. We find a discarded towel and look behind us, seeing nothing. We hear voices coming from the door to our right, but as player 2 approaches, they go silent. It's too muffled to make out what they were saying, but it sounds like a man speaking. Player 2 continues forward and notices a large amount of debris in the way. So instead of acting careful, he makes like one stompy boy and throws caution to the wind as he moves forward. We see some more doors, and move until we come to one that's been left ajar. We look back down the hallway and see that we end up in the room that's about right here on the map. And the rest is as you know. After the premiere, a new poll went up on the Patreon asking which day we should leave the second floor, with options ranging from day 1 up to day 7, including stay in the room for a full week. Now, this was a hotly contested poll, almost as hotly as the run, fight, hide poll, but leaving on the 5th day was the option that ended up winning the most votes. A full week later, on May 16th, we see the Methods of Revolution Day 11 premiere on the channel. The video begins with another spectrogram. This one contains some more binary. I also want to add that Shylance from the Discord has been our resident spectrogram master, so if you do join in, pop in and recognize the hard work these folks are doing to help solve these mysteries. This is the first stretch of binary. The bold block at the beginning seems to be separate from the rest of it. We've theorized it's a period, and the next block into the beginning is the beginning of a new sentence. Translated, it becomes Rav if Klej. We've tried hundreds of keys of decrypting the cipher over the course of 10 days as of writing the script, and we've come up with absolutely nothing for this cipher. We have a doc running that'll link in the description of every single method we tried to brute force this thing. It is currently unsolved. Next up on slightly better news is the second string of binary. The bolded block at the end here is similarly tricky to the bolded block of the first string. It doesn't translate right, but by itself, if we add 11 to the end, becomes binary for the letter O. Taking the rest of what can be translated gives us the following. Yibihimp mi hungeo. Discord user zrejects was able to solve it using the key able to find "you will be given." Now, onto the video itself.